Hello, everyone. Welcome and thank you for being here with us at Making Me Good Moves. We are so happy to have you here. My name is Giovanna Rosales. As most of you know, I am your host here at Making Me Good Moves, and I am so excited for this season 3, where we will be speaking to women on their journeys of discovering an extra layer of themselves. They're either chronic illnesses, disorders, and or disabilities. Disclaimer, neither our guest Paulette nor myself are medical professionals. We are just having a conversation on how we personally manage our, again, whether that's disorders, chronic illnesses, and or conditions. Please seek medical and professional help if you do not feel well or if you feel you might have a medical condition yourself. On today's show, we will be talking on the topic/subject of PCOS with one of my great, amazing friends, Paulette Piñero. Paulette, we are so excited to have you. And I know you're going to be talking to us a lot, but I'm just going to go ahead and give out a shout out intro to you because you are amazing. And we need to give you your flowers where they are needed. So Paulette Piñero is an introvert ADHD CEO and a recovering perfectionist. Paulette's superpoder is to guide Latina entrepreneurs to harness their strengths, amplify their voice, and make shit happen so they can become unstoppable CEOs. Using an equity-focused approach, her business, consulting, and multicultural marketing services strive to create a world where all underestimated folks can thrive and use their superpoderes to change the world. How is she able to accomplish this? By staying true to her core values, which are joy, impact, boldness, wonder, candor, and community. Amiga, we are so excited to have you. Welcome. Welcome back to Making Me That Moves. You made it on season 2, and then we have you back on season 3. So thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for the invite. I'm so excited, but I'm also very excited to talk about non-business, non-brand shit. Yes. It's like, I have a life. And non-parenting stuff.
And non-parent, yeah. This is like a great season. Like I said, it's a very personal one to me because, as you know, I got diagnosed with a chronic disorder in March. We are now in September, so it's been about 5 to 6 months. And I'm so excited for you to be open and share your journey. Thank you so much for being vulnerable and, speaking your truth and how your path came to be and how it took place. For our listeners, I just want to make sure before we actually get into the thick of it with your journey and your experience, I just want to go ahead and give the definition that I found on Mayo Clinic for PCOS and what it is. So for our listeners and viewers who don't know what PCOS is, PCOS, according to the Mayo Clinic, is defined as polycystic ovary syndrome, which is a problem with hormones that happens during the reproductive years. If you have PCOS, you might not have periods very often, or your periods may last many days. You may also have too much of a hormone called androgen in your body. With PCOS, many small sacs of fluid develop along the outer edge of the ovary. These are called cysts. The small fluid-filled cysts contain immature eggs. These are called follicles. The follicles fail to regulatory release eggs. That's a lot. That's a lot just within that explanation or within that definition alone. And I know, again, we are not medical professionals. We are not giving medical advice. But I would love for you to share your journey and share your story so our viewers as well as our listeners can know what to look out for and maybe how to maneuver if they don't have PCOS themselves to be able to help someone in their life or within their community with PCOS. So how did your journey with PCOS begin, Paulette? When did you realize there was something different with your menstruation cycle compared to all other young women? And at what point did you realize this pain is no longer regular pain, but it's something more excruciating and severe?
For me, I got my first period at 11.
Me too.
And by 14, it was so overwhelming that I couldn't go to school like the first 2 or 3 days, or I had to leave early. And it wasn't just the pain, it was also the flow. Like I was changing maxi pads every 45 minutes to an hour.
Oh my goodness.
For those first 2 days, especially the first 2 days. Um, it was, I went to a Catholic private school in Puerto Rico, so we had like la falda con la, like also like the whole uniform didn't help. And like all my friends knew to like, I'm on my period, we have to check Paulette. Yo manchaba en todas partes. When I moved out, like my grandma used to give me like pee pads for the bed when I was on my period because everyone knew that I was going to bleed out at night. I still wake up at night because I got so used to waking up at night when I was on my period because I had to change. Tampons didn't work, the period cup didn't work, and I started going to the OBGYN at 14. Which most commonly you go after you turn 18. No. And I wasn't diagnosed with PCOS until 3 years ago at 33.
Let's do the math really quick. So
Yes.
please just tell your story. I'm just busting out the calculator here. Yes.
And it was the pain. It was the heavy flow. Like the facial, like my eyebrows. I just did my eyebrows 2 weeks ago, and it's like I didn't. Like my hair, my like a lot of breakouts. But one of the things, so my doctor realized it was PCOS when I got COVID. And it was between my doctor and my new therapist that realized that I had PCOS after I had COVID at the beginning of the pandemic, and then I suffered with a second chronic illness, which is long COVID since then. And there were a couple of the symptoms that worsened over time. And there's different types of PCOS. My PCOS is insulin resistant. So it's kind of like diabetes of the ovaries.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So there's different types of PCOS. And like Ivana said, like, we're not doctors, we're not specialists. Please talk to your doctor. But like there's insulin resistance PCOS, inflammatory PCOS, adrenal PCOS, and one more that I don't remember. So I have the insulin resistance PCOS. So my doctor was like, okay, the long COVID is causing you like this random high inflammation. My periods got worse after I had COVID. And my doctor was like, this doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense. And they did some lab work and they sent me to a special, like a OBGYN specialist. And she was the one who diagnosed me with PCOS. And it made so much sense as to in between 19 and 30 years old, I saw many therapists, psychiatrists, and I tried 27 different medications for depression and anxiety. I was diagnosed with bipolar 2 disorder, which is very common for women with ADHD. And they couldn't understand the connection between the hormonal piece. It's not just the pain and the flow, is all the hormonal changes that cause. It's the high inflammation. It's the issues with food and dieting. I have PCOS. I saw nutritionists. They were like, you eat healthy. You eat healthy most people. You go to the gym and not just do cardio. You do like weight training and you've always done it. What is happening? And it wasn't until I was seeing like 5 doctors for the COVID. I started with a new therapist who is a woman of color, a Black woman. And I started with a new psychiatrist who is also a woman of color. That they were like, oh, we know what this is. Like, I was finally taken seriously. And they were like, it's PCOS. like the long COVID. And you're not bipolar too, you just have ADHD.
Yeah.
And you're a woman of color, you're missing by the second appointment with my psychiatrist. So I was able to truly understand my brain and my body because I almost died from COVID, and I had like a team of doctors supporting me and helping me. But my teen years and my 20s were so difficult and so horrible because I had like my body attacking me, and what I felt was my mind attacking me, which was just a whole bunch of misdiagnosis. Like, I took medication that clenched my jaw. I had EpiPens because of reactions, because of misdiagnosis. And my doctors all told me women with both PCOS and ADHD, women of color, get misdiagnosed like every day. Like, they're like, we see this every day.
Oh my goodness. Which is heart-wrenching, right? Which is heart-wrenching because it took them 19 years to diagnose you correctly. It took them 20 years to diagnose me correctly. And there's no reason why women should be even waiting this long to be diagnosed and or be misdiagnosed for that long. Like 19 years of misdiagnosis, I can only imagine the repercussions of taking medication that you have no need to be taking. But then finally, how did you feel? Because this is how I felt, and I want to get your point of view. When I was finally diagnosed, it all made sense to me. I was like, oh, I'm not crazy. Oh, I'm not psychotic, because with PMDD, right? Like there's I don't create enough serotonin or dopamine in my head. So my anxiety attacks are very, very bad. My depression state is on a whole nother level. But and then like there's just a point in time where I just feel empty and I'm kind of just walking around doing things because of the notion, but not because I'm present, if you will, right? Whether that's like cooking or writing like the business proposals, right? How did you feel once you got diagnosed and once you started on the correct treatments for your ADHD along with your PCOS? How did you start feeling as far as like, oh, I'm being heard? Like you had said, oh, I have a team of doctors now. I am being heard. I am being validated. I am being taken care of and nurtured. And I'm not just being told the same bullshit like every other, like every woman I talk to. It's like,
me sentía como una loca. De verdad, llegaba un momento, like there was a point where I told before COVID in like 2019, I told my husband, it happened a couple of times. It happened in 2016, and it happened again in 2019. Like because I vividly, like, esas son cosas que cuando día que yo me muera las voy a ver. That I went to my husband and said, I want to go to inpatient. I want to go to a psychiatric hospital. I feel like I'm going insane.
Yes.
Insane. Like I am scared.
Yes.
And like one of the things was like there were two things that were attached to the PCOS. Like one was the fatigue. And I'm not talking just regular fatigue. It's like fatigue that I can no longer walk. I need to lay down and I will fall asleep. And I had, oh my God, like neurologo MRIs, like, and the neurologist treated me as if, like, he made fun of me. The pulmonologist made fun of me. And I was like, I just came to a point when I felt like I was going, like, I was like, I shouldn't be around my kids. Like, what is happening? Is that I literally was like, do I have Munchausen's? Like, jamás yo me estoy imaginando esto. Like, all that guilt and all that pain. And then the other part was like the tingling sensations in my hands or feet and like the constant urination. I was like, do I have diabetes? And I will go and they will look at me like, how can you have diabetes? Like, we sent you to this. And it was, and then the guilt of the doctor, you just need to lose weight. All of that, todo eso se te va a
Always.
decir, rebaja, todo eso se va. When they gave me that PCOS diagnosis, and the first thing that my OBGYN said, and I was with my OBGYN and my doctor because they were on the boat, same clinic, and my doctor, una boricua, Dr. Leo Delgado, donde estés, I love you, because I no longer live there in Boston anymore. She wanted to be there, and when they gave me the diagnosis and they explained to me, and like my doctor was like, the next thing she said, it was like, moving forward, if you're not seeing me and you're not seeing a specialist that knows PCOS, tú no te tienes que pesar, because I don't want doctors to tell you that bullshit that you need to lose weight. Your body cannot do it. It does not have the capacity to do it without help. You have a healthy lifestyle, you'll eat healthy, like you will vas a subir de peso, and I don't want you to worry about that. And if at some point that's something that you don't want to deal with because of your chronic condition, that you can get surgery and your insurance has to pay for all of it. And she was like, I want you to this cannot be no longer an issue. So no, you don't need to see the dietitian again. You don't need to I don't want you to worry about that small thing that todos los doctores me decían, pues si tú rebajas se te quita eso, si tú rebajas se te quita eso, si te molesta las piernas, te estás durmiendo, es que estás gorda, es que tienes que rebajar. And she knew that, and that was now I have the language to self-advocate. When I go to the doctor, when I go to my physical, I interview my new doctor. Yo la entrevisté, yo hice una cita, and she was like, it's your physical? And I'm like, no, I want to see if we work out.
Yeah. But you know what, the first time, and I want to make this clear for the listeners too, because it's very, very hard to advocate for yourself, especially when it comes to the doctors, right? It's whether it's in the intimidation or the lack of resources. So when you finally get into the building or you finally are able to see them, you're like, oh, bendito sea, I have to.
Ellos llevan estudiando 10 years, and you're I know me, but you've been in school for 12 years. ¿Quién soy yo para decirte lo que tienes que hacer?
Yeah, but even if you don't have the correct language, right? Even if you don't have the correct language, it is okay for you to stand up for yourself. And the first few times it's going to be very uncomfortable, because that's something that we learn at home, right? You just listen to your parents, tal y cual, you just have to kind of just be quiet and listen because they're the authoritative figure. But once you start advocating for yourself, it is not going to be perfect the first time. Your voice might be shaking. I know mine did the first time. But the more and more you do it and the more practice you have, the more easier it becomes. And so I just want to make that clear to our listeners and viewers as well, is you're advocating, and now you've learned the language, you can speak the language because you've also done your research and you know when to say and how to say. But sometimes a no is a complete answer too.
Yeah. Oh no, I had to yo tengo que ir every 3 months to my doctor, y las enfermeras, they're used to it. Me van a tomar, and I'm like, is that required for today? Well, it's good, but I'm not coming here for new medication. This is not a sick visit where my doctor needs to know my weight. I'm not interested. And when I had to look for a new OBGYN, I called until I found an OBGYN that has experience with PCOS. And I had they were like, oh, but all of our, and I'm like, no, I need someone who has experience or has done research with PCOS. Because I can't be going back and forth. They don't need to re-diagnose me, because that was also an experience. They're well, maybe it's not that. And I'm like, did you just tell me 15 minutes ago? No, no. Oh, that you shouldn't be taking. I remember I fui on sick visit 2 years ago, my old doctor's clinic, and todo estaba el nurse practitioner, and he was like, oh, well, you shouldn't be taking this medication, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you just met me today. this is the plan of care that I have with my long-term doctor. Is this going to affect the medication that you want for today? No, it's just that I think, oh, that's great. Okay. Yeah, I'm not changing it. And you have, like, it's not everyone wants to, it's a lot of power and privilege. I have
Yes.
private insurance through my husband. I know not everyone can do that, but, being able to sit down and identify, like, what do you need from your care professionals before you schedule the appointment, like writing. I have my notes app on my phone, and asking questions or writing questions before my appointment is important.
I do that too.
And
I go in with my notes already open.
yeah,
And I do a cross off.
yeah, same. And
Mhm.
I'm like, yeah, and we're gonna like, you're gonna answer all my questions. I'll be there early, but you're
Mhm.
gonna answer all of my questions. If not, like, let's schedule a follow-up appointment. Give me the printout of like, I don't leave. And if it's a new physician or a new specialist, I'm like, before we get started, can we make sure that you have my diagnoses um on your computer so we're ready to have the conversation?
Mhm. Mhm.
And like, oh, you have PCOS, you have long COVID, you have neuropathy, like
Yeah.
these ADHD, like all these things. And then I'm like, oh, okay, now we can go into the conversation. Because sometimes specialists don't have like all the information that they need from you. So I always like, can we review my diagnoses before we get started?
What you're making it clear to our listeners, and we tend to forget this, is that's a relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
When it's two people talking, it's obviously right, not a physical relationship, not a romantic relationship, but it's still a relationship nonetheless. And so they can't just word vomit you
Yeah.
with their technical terms or their medical terms. Like, that's cute story. You went to school, I get it, you put in your dues, but you need to talk to me in layman's terms, because
Yeah.
this is my body. And then if I have questions, you also need to have the answers, because again, once I'm out of this office, right, like, you either have a follow-up or you don't. So you might
Mm-hmm.
not even see the doctor again, or you will, but then your follow-up well, with my insurance, girl, I have state insurance, so let's talk. That's a whole nother topic for another day. So like, my follow-ups sometimes aren't even until like a month and a half, 2 months from then.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a long time. And so I need to make it very, very clear that I know what I'm doing for my body, and that I can have it be to the best of my ability without having to panic or worry those 8 weeks that I won't be seeing you. So
Okay.
don't let them feel like,
right? Yeah.
yeah. So like, don't feel like doctors can speak to you and then just walk away. Like, if you have questions, please speak up. And if you don't understand something, please speak up. And I'm this type of person. If you tell me something, I have to tell it to you back, because that's
Same.
how I learn.
That's
I
how I
can't just have you
process. Yeah.
spitting things out and me taking notes and be like, because I'm like a deer in the headlights. I mean, we've done some collaborations together. We've worked together, Paulette. I've been, even in meetings, I'm like, okay, so just so we're both clear and on the same page, and I repeat what you just finished saying, and that's okay. Like, everyone has different learning systems. Please just do not be afraid to speak up for yourself. And if you don't understand, if they have to say it twice, who the fuck cares? Like,
Yeah.
it's your body, it's your salud, it's your health. You have to take care of you, because they're not going to be there holding your hand to take care of you.
Yeah.
You found a great community when it comes to your doctors now, and you have a whole team watching out for you. When you did get diagnosed with PCOS as well as ADHD, how did your community react to it? Did you feel safe enough to let them know? And then once you did, were they supportive? How did they react? If you can let our listeners know too.
Yeah. I would say my family doesn't understand either.
They never did.
No. My mom does. My mom works in the health field, so she understands. Um, and she's very supportive. Because she has that expertise. My mom has endometriosis. I've had
Mm.
cervical cancer. So like understanding the PCOS really like took out the filter to talk to people, medical professionals, but also family, about like certain questions or certain things that they had. But also it helped me enforce boundaries of like,
Ooh.
I I have a chronic illness and I have a flare up right now. I cannot go to that event. I don't need to explain to them what PCOS means. I've had situations where family members or friends don't believe me, and that is fine. But it's allowed me to enforce my boundaries, because before I was like, oh, I'm not going, or I don't feel well. Like, I have a chronic illness, I have a flare up, and I don't have the capacity to go. And
And I
that's
think
it.
it's really hard, especialmente en nuestra cultura, right? Like, oh, pero like es la fiesta. We haven't seen you. Like,
Mm-hmm.
there's just with family too. Like, there can be so much love, right? And there can be like, but we really miss you. We just want to hang out with you. We want to see you. And with chronic illnesses, it's not even a whether I want to see you or not. It's like I just can't get out of bed.
Mm-hmm.
I just like I really can't get
I
out of
can't
bed.
move.
I
I can't.
can't move.
And they're invisible too, right? Like, this
Ugh,
is
yes.
the other thing. Like, they're invisible disabilities. They're chronic illnesses that are, people are difficult to understand even for the folks who go through them. But that, like, I have a chronic illness, I have a flare up, I don't have the capacity. Love you. Hope that we can connect soon. Like, and that's where it's at. I like, family will make comments. I have the option of going through surgery to lose weight. I have the option of using Ozempic to lose weight, right? Because I have insulin resistance. I'm like a great candidate. I made the decision of not doing those things
Mm-hmm.
because I do not want to,
Mm-hmm.
right? But like, my grandfather called me 2 days ago just to tell me, I saw you were featured on an article and I saw your photo, and I thought he was going to be like, surprise. He was like, you need to lose weight. You look
Stop it. For real?
like me. Yes. And I was like, I gave him the response, like, my body and my weight are not up for discussion.
Yeah, that's literally enforcing your boundaries.
Right? Like, they're not up for discussion. If you want to talk about it with someone else, it's fine, but not with me. Anything else that you have to say, abuelito? No, well, oh, my body's not up for discussion, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's given me understanding my chronic illness and having the right support system and the right information. Also, stop following all the influencers on social media that think that they're experts. They're a great way for you to start looking for information, but they're not the information.
And I think that alone is a journey, right? Like, when I remember I got diagnosed with PMDD, I was like, oh, great. Like, now let me go look for support groups within social media, because these women have the same chronic illness that I have. And, and then like, and because it's brand new, right? You're just trying to join every community and you're like, I just need to absorb all this information and all this knowledge. Now I need to intake because Google can't do enough. But then there's a lot of those communities that I've walked away from because I'm like, oh, this doesn't serve me. This isn't my purpose. And this isn't the tone that I need to be informed in.
Yeah.
There's
90% of the PCOS communities and content creators are about losing weight, which I am not shitting on the folks that want to lose weight. It's just that, for me, that is not the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal for me is to exist.
Ooh.
That's my ultimate goal. Exist and be joyful. Like that really is my ultimate goal. And 90% of the content creators and online communities for PCOS are only about losing weight. And that might be important for some people based on what their healthcare professionals recommend. For me, they were like, if you don't want to lose weight, you're doing great. Like you're doing everything that you need to do. I'm taking my supplements. I actually cannot take the PCOS medication because of my long COVID. So I cannot go on metformin. I have to do a lot of life adjustments for me to manage my PCOS because of my other chronic illness, which makes it even more difficult. But yeah, like the content creators on the social media was a great start for me to like, let me look at this article. Oh, this is a great question to ask my doctor. Like somatic healing, like that sounds great because it's like exercise and it helps me with like neuropathy and the ADHD, but like we need to, they did not go 10 years. They are talking about their experiences with a very biased lens of what other people might experience or what privilege they might have in their lives.
That's very true. And you're like, girl, you're in such high demand. We have to do, ladies and gentlemen, Paulette is in such high demand that we actually have to do her episodio in 2 pieces because I could not get her on for a full hour. So we are just so grateful that we were able to do part 1 today. We will get into more in depth of it and like how you manage it and what your approach is. And then again, just questions on, the business owner aspect and you being able to manage and like what types of
accommodations. I have a lot of accommodations.
And like just talk about the realness of that. So we'll be doing that in part 2. Folks, please stay tuned for part 2. And Paulette, thank you so much for this half hour. We can't wait to hear more of your journey and your story. And yes, folks, please stay tuned. We'll talk to you soon. Bye. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Making Needed Moves, Season 3, Part 2 of Paulette's episode, Mujeres with PCOS. Paulette, I'm so glad that we were able to reconnect. Again, I know that you're a busy bee, and you've been working on some pretty awesome high achievements. So thank you so much for taking the time and giving us the space to amplify your story as well as your experience and your journey with PCOS. We left off on the last episode talking about how we will be discussing how you manage your PCOS and how you accommodate it, knowing that this is going to be a lifelong journey for you. So having said that, again, welcome back. And then how would you describe to our listeners as well as viewers what are the steps that you take to accommodate and manage your chronic illness on not only just a daily basis, but like if you take it within quarter increments as well?
Yeah. So there's a couple of like rest. I believe that rest is required for people with chronic illnesses. Rest is also resistance and disruption and anti-racist work. So that's important to me. But rest when my body needs it. And I love the book Rest is Resistance. If you haven't read it, go read it.
Beyond cosign. Beyond cosign.
Yeah. Pa llorar. But it's also about like I don't need to earn rest. I have to rest because my body needs it.
That's a reframing because we do not learn that, especially in American society. It's the more you push, the more productive you are, the more valuable you are, as even on a human being level. So the fact that you're going against that, and yes, shout out to Trisha Hirsch. Yes, for creating that book, Rest is Resistance, a manifesto, teaches us that and practicing that and practicing that on your everyday life. Had to be a challenge in the beginning, but now I bet you it's just like, oh, how did I live without it?
My kids At the beginning, it was so weird because I mean, mis hijos estaban acostumbrados to see me in the hustle. Mommy works hard and she goes to. Now, rest is part of my day to day, but it's also embedded in my business. So if
Mm.
I have a speaking engagement that it's in person, that is the only thing that I will do that day. I am an
Oh.
introvert. I'm neurodivergent and I love doing public speaking, but it takes a lot from me because it's not just the preparing, the getting there, right? The for in person, the preparing, the getting there, the sharing my expertise is then hearing other people's stories, at their questions, the Q&A, the networking piece. So if I have an in-person speaking engagement, I take the rest of the day so I can decompress, so I can rest. And of course, like yo todavía estoy cocinando y pasando el vacuum, right? But I need to make sure that my workflow and capacity for my business is not exhausting me constantly because then I'm going to have chronic illness flare ups. And taking rest that day means that I can work the next day. If I don't do it, I'm going to crash in 3 or 4 days. The flare ups, the inflammation, how I how I process my foods, how no, it's fucked up. So
And
I
then
yeah, go
I'm
ahead.
so, what I was going to say too is you are no longer serving yourself with these
Mhm.
flare ups that are happening. Now your creativity is decreasing.
Yeah.
So right, and you write blog posts and you have amazing material on LinkedIn. And so how can you do that if you're concentrating on a flare up because of the fact that you were trying to live this productive lifestyle? And
Yeah.
so, and you're a very creative person. So just having that drain all of that part of your brain on top of the physical has to be beyond excruciating.
Yeah. And one of the other things is that my therapist had me like write what I was doing for like 2 weeks. And she was like, but I want you to write the mom workload, the wife workload, the
Mm,
personal workload, the chronic illness. Like, how many hours are you truly working? Nena, cuando yo te digo a ti that that was life changing, because I thought, well, I usually work 5 to 6 hour days. See,
right.
but then I am picking up the kids at the bus stop, taking them to the library on Wednesday, taking Sophia to chorus. Like in one day, I was working 12 hours nonstop until I took a shower, crashed, and looked on my phone for an hour next to
Oh
my
my
husband.
goodness.
Of course, I'm gonna wake up the next day with a flare up.
Of
So
course.
Thursday, yeah. So Thursdays, son me high. Like these kids have everything on Thursdays. So on Thursdays, yo empiezo tarde, right? Because I'm gonna be work. Like, I'm gonna have work hours.
Hmm.
Doesn't matter if it's business, if it's client, if it's mom, if it's personal, right? Like I know that Thursdays are a day that I'm gonna do a lot. No one can schedule anything on Fridays. Fridays, I just put some things that I would like to do. It's like Fridays are for my I will like to do list rather than I have to do list.
Ooh, the reframing.
Yeah. So like nothing that I have to do can happen on Friday. It's I will like to do or others want me to do. And I put that on Friday. All my Fridays are blocked and it allows me to honor my creative flow. It allows me, I have my book writing coaching on Thursdays too. So like Fridays allow me to listen to my body, to focus on what I need to, and most Fridays I'm at Costco. So
I was just there
yeah.
yesterday.
Fridays are my Costco day. Lleno el tanque de gasolina because it's cheaper.
Hmm. Yeah.
I already do like grocery pickup, but I'm like, la leche más barata allí. Like, I'll just hang out on Costco. I'll get gas for the week. I'll take my laptop and maybe stop at a coffee shop and do some of that. Like, I like to do list. I might be in, but it has completely shifted. Then I am ready to be present on the weekends. Like now I can enjoy my weekends. Now I'm eating healthier foods. Now I can do things like
with your family or
with
with
my
yourself
family.
or with your girlfriends that live in the
Exactly.
same area.
Um, listening to my body on making the adjustments, especially like for speaking engagements, for client meetings, for following up with leads, for doing like the operations and content work. Like I have a content strategy. So for like more quarterly or annual, I have a marketing strategy for the year, and I have divided then by quarters.
Yes.
It's aligned with my business goals, and I've shared it a couple of times on LinkedIn. Like I want everyone to see it. Que se lo copien, que hagan lo mismo si quieren.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I have one audacious goal under that. Like for October, launch the Unstoppable Latina show, right? Like my podcast. But
Right.
that is it. The rest is direction to allow me to be more creative. So it's like make sure that and it has KPIs, but even with my content or the things that I share, I allow for my flow. I allow for me to be more creative, but also si no se puede, no se puede. So yo no me
Mm-hmm.
puedo levantar, I just can't.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I also tell that to my clients. So having a clear strategy for my marketing, but also my 3-year growth strategic growth plan for my business allows me to be like, I don't need to hustle. No one's waiting for me. Here are the like high level overview of what you want to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
What can I do today?
Yeah.
And today it's gonna be very, very, but it compounds every single day. One of the things, and we talked about this, like one of the things that I teach my clients is like, what is your ridiculously small step?
Yep.
Something that you can do in 30 seconds or less while you're running in a zombie apocalypse. Yes, I know, right?
Yeah.
Um, but that has helped me manage my chronic illness as I'm running a full-time entrepreneur
Mm-hmm.
with contract like year-long contracts with clients, with corporations, with nonprofits, and building my brand and writing a book and tú sabes, criando a un muchacho like my me Paulette va
Mm-hmm.
primero. I go before anything else and anyone else. And I, as a Latina mom, that sounds horrible porque madre primero, madre solo hay una, right? My children will have their best mom if I take care of myself first.
And I
Me.
think I think on that aspect alone, you are breaking a lot of generational what barriers, curses, whichever word you want to use, because we don't see that in our households. I mean, I'm not a mom, but I've seen my mom beyond sacrifice herself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the martyrism trophy that they carry, right? Like, and that's not, it's not healthy. It's not okay. It's not benefiting anyone within that community, your intimate community, or your kids, your husband, and yourself. So you trying to be on that wheel of martyrism isn't serving anyone in your intimate household. So the fact that you're breaking these barriers, or this curse, I should say, or
Mm-hmm.
these stigmas, and showing your children the example of this is what happens when I put myself first. This is how I can show up for you when I start putting myself first. I can create more impact, right? We can all learn together. We can all grow together. We can all become closer together. It's just, it's, I've seen it in your household. I've stayed with you a few days in your house, and just seeing your family dynamic compared to quote unquote old school dynamic is just
Mm-hmm.
pretty awesome to see,
Oh yeah.
because your kids aren't growing up the way you and I did,
Oh
or
no.
kids of our generation are, and you
I'm relaxed
instilling
all
all
the
of this.
time, but I'm like, how are y'all also relaxed? The other piece is that the way that my kids show up is very different. I was showing up for my abuelas and my mom with fear and guilt y obliga.
True.
My kids show my kid 3 out of 7 days a week. By the time it's 6 o'clock, ya yo estoy muerta. Like I can barely move. So I eat in my room, and my kids, they bring me the food, and they might sit with me. They're like, "Mommy, let me know what you need. Te traigo agua." Like you do that. I used to feel so much shame, so much shame about that. Not anymore, because then that allows me to then sit down with them and be like, "Cuéntame el día. Let's watch a movie together. Let's play. I don't know, like Get Loud. We love playing Get Loud. Um, it provides me the capacity. Like, and I don't cook. Ayer, my husband worked late. I had a speaking engagement, got home late, late at 4. But I was exhausted. I had to drive from Rhode Island, and I was like, is it within our budget to order food? And he was like, I don't know. You should know. And I was like, I don't
and
even.
that's when you're like, no, this is a whole conversation between fair workload.
Yeah.
That's when you're like, red flag.
Yeah. And I was like, I can't cook. It doesn't sound like you want to cook today. Can order food. I need to nap. And I woke up with Sofia haciéndome like, mommy, food is here. And she brought me a plate and she ate, and then she was with me and we spent the night together. Like, si mi abuela ve eso, she'll le da un ataque.
Yeah,
right.
of course.
But that's what works for me. My kids are constantly like, Mommy, how can I help you? Or Mommy, don't do this. I am here. My husband travels, and my son will be like, Mommy, I got it. Please go rest. And at the beginning, I used to feel so much shame because of that. But now I believe that I'm giving them a gift of empathy, of truly seeing our family as a community, and to understand the importance of leaning on their communities too, because they're my community, my immediate community. And I've seen them ask for help. My daughter a veces llega de la escuela bien cargada o cansada, and she's very like, she loves school, she loves studying. And she'll be like, I cannot do my homework right now. I'm going to take a break for an hour. And she'll go take a nap. She'll go rest. She'll listen to an audiobook and come refreshed. Like, to me, that's a that's a parenting win, because I will come home, and before she would be like, no, but I want to play, so I need to finish my homework right now.
That's how I grew up.
Yeah, me too. So for her to be able to assess her needs, vocalize them, and en otras palabras, mami, no venga a joder.
Yeah.
She'll put a timer and just see her in her room just resting because she needs to, because she wants to, and then be able to come back and be like, this is, now I'm ready. I think it's the most beautiful gift that I can give my children, by showing them the importance of taking care of yourself continuously. Also, as someone with a chronic illness, like how that is different. And but also just like I feel like I'm teaching them to know their worth and lean on their community when it happens, not at the end, not to resolve the problems. Like leaning on our community is something that happens every single day.
And I think that's beautiful. You answered the question before I could even ask it, was how does your community show up for you and how do they support you? And so we've gotten these amazing glimpses with your intimate family on how they show up for you, how they help you. But another way to get support and through for your this is for like your chronic condition and how you can thrive within your business. What I have noticed as well, and you and I have had side chats about it, is how you and I with our chronic illnesses are leveraging technology and how we are using it to our full advantage for those days that we might need rest. Mine can be 3 days in a row. Yours as well can be just as much. And as we know, as business owners, that's a long ass time to not be present and to not show up for your business. So I would love to give our listeners and our viewers how you and I both leverage AI, artificial intelligence, for our businesses. and how we're killing the game in AI, because there are like, and I'm full disclosure, there are biases, there are dangers, there are disparities within AI, but you and I are very aware of it.
Yeah.
We'll definitely call it out. I have a post on my LinkedIn, like asking Google, you're saying that you're giving access to your Gemini tool to certain groups. Did those groups include diverse groups? Because you're asking for feedback, but if you're only giving it to a certain group, that's not going to help us. And so if you want to let our listeners know exactly what you use it for in your business and how it helps you in your business, that'd be great.
Yeah. So there's within technology, like one of the things that has helped me manage my business, manage my capacity, manage my chronic illness, but also maintain a great client experience is I use Notion. All of my clients, not my coaching clients, but my business growth clients and my consulting clients, they get access to, and I have templates and SOPs, but like I use Notion, and I also use the AI tool in Notion to create a lot of these templates. So that was very helpful when I was setting up kind of like the processes and how that is going to look like, not only using Notion, which is a great tool, but using the AI component in Notion to create briefs for the project, to create some templates for how those setups were going to look like. And then I use the competition for OpenAI for ChatGPT, Claude AI, and I use that as, so I have different, I actually have for different clients, but I have one that is just Unstoppable Latina marketing and copy, and I use this as a brainstorm tool for my content, for my marketing strategy, to get me started or get me finished. Either like, I need to brainstorm this, the idea, how would this look like? Is this viable? Here are all the things that I need to consider. Do they align with the strategic plan that you already have? Or this is all I want to do, but I'm stuck with the execution, and I give all the details.
Yes.
How can I execute this with these goals? So it serves as my brainstorming team right now.
Yes.
But it's really helpful because it's just an extension of my brain. It's not another brain. It's not someone else. It's an extension of my brain. It's pulling information from information that I provided around my values, what I'm interested in, my business goals, the way that I speak, all those things. So it's I don't as the way that I use it as a tool is not give me something from Google,
Correct.
from internet, from the collective experience, or stealing from someone else. It is an extension of my brain when I had more capacity to think about it.
And I think that's what we want to make our listeners and viewers very aware of. Yes, you can get the very cliche answer. You can get the very general answer if you put in a certain question. But the more and more you interact with it, and the more that you show up as your true self with these type of tools, the more you input yourself, the more output you are going to get of yourself when you are using these. And they're just, like you were saying, they're just extensions. Like right now you're using it for your brainstorming, right? I've used Canva AI to create workshops. And the first time I used it, I was like, yo, this is complete trash. Like, absolutely not. So I'm learning, or the Canva AI is learning the types of colors, right? Like the brand colors that I'm going to use, the type of imagery that I like to use, the type of tone that I want to use. And now that ChatGPT is integrated with Canva AI, instead of me toggling between both, because 2 tabs is just too much. Now that it's integrated together, it can just be within 1 tab. And so, just using it more to be able to tailor it to your needs and how you want it to output. It's like anything, right? Practice makes perfect. And at the end of the day, you're the human being. So you're not just going to take this output and take it for what it's worth. You have to, as a business owner, review it, make sure that it's liable, make sure that it's fact correct. Like you still have to fact check. It's not just here's the answer in the 3 months. So I'm just glad that we were both able to find tools that help us on our journey and that make those 3 days that you do have to be in bed not mentally as challenging as they can be, because the whole fear of I'm not answering emails or I'm not doing enough doesn't come into play as much, because we're using the technology that's out there nowadays. Paulette, it's always great to have you. It's always it's just amazing. I don't have enough words for you. But before we leave, what are some tools or resources, blogs maybe? What are some of the resources that you can give our viewers and listeners? What are some of those that you can give them to help them with their PCOS journey?
Yeah, so I would say number one, find a physician that works for you. And remember, you can change if they don't, right? So that's very important. Second, stop following everyone on social media that says they're a PCOS expert. So like, rather than give you, I'm going to take away from you, because you don't know what their expertise is. You don't know their life story. Start with one and do your research. So I would say that's the second. And then one of the things that has been very helpful for me that you should talk with your doctor, OBGYN, with your medical specialist, is follow a low inflammation diet. And that has been very helpful. And I can see the difference from a day that I am following a low inflammation diet to the day that I am not. That definitely helps with my PCOS. And when I say diet, it's just the things that you should include in what you eat, rather than just taking away or doing something to lose weight, right? It's really like the foods that help lower inflammation in my body that I want to make sure that I implement in every meal. Those have been very helpful. And in the business side, I share a lot of content around business and branding on my LinkedIn, Paulette Piñero, so we can always connect there. And I also share things about how I shift my business to make sense for my chronic illnesses and for my ADHD. So yeah, you can connect with me on LinkedIn, Paulette Piñero.
Is that where you want folks to connect with you the most, or do you have other platforms? Yeah. Okay. So
they can go to LinkedIn, and they can, you can also follow me on Instagram, unstoppable_Latina.
Okay, perfect. I just want to add this. And so before we hang up, again, Paulette, thank you so much for being with us. Thank you so much, amiga, for sharing tu tiempo y tu energía and tu knowledge. I'm so lucky to have you on the show. And I know our listeners will be forever grateful with the knowledge and insight that you gave them with PCOS. For all of those who joined, thank you so much for listening. I hope you were able to receive some of the gems of knowledge that were dropped on today's episode. Don't forget to leave us a review, please. 5 estrellitas, por favor. And join the online community Making Leader Moves on Facebook as well as Instagram. If you have any questions, please feel free to email us at makingleadermoves@gmail.com. Gracias once again, and I will catch you on the next episodio. Abrazos, besos y cariño, familia. Bye.